We're back, moving on to my second ayahuasca journey. And I think it's important to note before getting into it, I think we left off, I was talking about integration and how the experience itself, as magical as it is really where it starts. And the integration process is really the most important. How you take the lessons, things you've learned, even from a miraculous journey, but processing it. And that's the most important. How do you process it into your daily life, and how do you use the things that you've learned to integrate them? That's really where the magic happens. And sometimes it's hard to see in daily life that that's really where the magic lies, in the mundane. And I think that's important because it was about 4 years between the first two journeys. The thing with ayahuasca is you're called. You're called to it, even with all of the fear and just the feelings of, should I do this? What am I getting into? It's a calling. And sometimes with every psychedelic experience, especially, with me, there's a lot of trepidation because the experience as you get into it can be very overwhelming. And one main thing I want to tell people is that's okay. You're going to feel these things, and it's not without you don't do it without this kind of fear and a little bit of anxiety. You do it in spite of that, and you say to yourself, I'm going to get into this because it's the best thing for me. I know it's going to be a healing experience, and so I'm going to do it despite the fact that the experience can be somewhat overwhelming sometimes because what's on the other side. So I went about this integration process, which was really wonderful. And 4 years later, I was called to it again. And I did it with a new shaman, let's say. It was a woman this time. And it was in a totally different setting. I was in a totally different place. And I just felt the need to go back. And that's really how ayahuasca works. So I get there, and similar type of situation, although this was inside. It was in a house, and people were laying out the mats, and we were talking, kind of like the first experience. Some of those people were first timers, so it was interesting for me because now I wasn't the first timer, although obviously not experienced. And the interesting thing is, I was sat down on my mat next to a young woman, and we started a conversation for a couple of minutes. And as typical, it's, how did you come to it? You have a lot of experience. And she told me that she's had 45 ayahuasca journeys, which blew me away because it's incredible to think that someone could go through this so many times. I asked her, one of my questions was, is there anything from like a greater picture, or do you have some kind of clarity after so many experiences that sort of jump out that might be common, sort of a common thread that I don't really have the perspective to look back on because I only had this one journey to that point? And she said to me something really profound. First, she said, first of all, they're all different. And then she took a pause and she told me something that hit hard. She said, with regard to the ayahuasca ceremony, think of your life as a ceremony. And as we begin to, delve into psychedelics and sort of the fractal nature of things, it was very interesting to think about an ayahuasca journey as a life experience where your current life experience may in fact be just a fractal component of an entirely greater thing that's all encompassed into this lifetime. And by extension, each of these ayahuasca journeys are almost like a lifetime in and of themselves. And to go about your daily life as though it is a journey. Every moment is a journey. So every lifetime is a journey, and every moment in your life is a journey. If we can sit back and sort of detach and think about the importance of that. And the really interesting part about that was that sort of set the theme for my journey experience that was to come. So similarly, we all get ready and we go and we drink and go back to the mat and kind of waiting for things to take effect. And the call comes for the second cup, which I go up and I take, and then take the second cup, and it starts to come on. I have a little bit of knowledge about what that's going to feel like, and it starts to come on. This was really physical. This experience was kind of about extremes. And as I get into it, I start to have these real big swings between, like, if you felt like you were boiling to death in 100 degrees, like 150 degrees, like you're in a sauna or a steam room. And then some time would go by and I'm in extreme cold. Now, the internal temperature of the room is the same, but it's the medicine and your internal temperature that changes. And it's a little bit of this, back and forth between absolute heat and cold, very physically taxing. And at the same time, there was no purging, no vomiting this time, but the whole group seemed to experience the same thing where we were all in the bathroom, like multiple times. And over the course of hours, between the temperature changes and being in the bathroom, next day I lost about 9 pounds, just, pure water, just in the experience. So again, really physically taxing, to the point where, at the end, and this is really kind of the theme of the experience, was that you have to be present. And going through a really trying physical ordeal brought to light the lesson that when it was finally over, that I was just ready to just be. Just leave me alone. You could drop me in a gutter somewhere just as long as I can just be without the extreme changes. And that was, really the theme of this was learn how to just be present. In the experience itself, something happened that was really quite interesting. And I had talked about this on a podcast before, which was that during the one of the hardest times in the journey, where I kind of was very difficult. You just feel like the medicine working, and it was just, you kind of feel this sort of very heavy energy coming on, very heavy. This goes on, throughout the journey, and it's definitely brought on by the music that is played, and the drumming and kind of singing that happens all in the journey. I felt heaviness come on, and it caused me to sit up, and it made me want to try and purge, but I couldn't. And I'm sitting there and just kind of changed my physical position and sitting up. And after a while, an image sort of came to me. It seemed like at first it was from far back and far away, and then almost kind of just came closer and closer, and then hit me in the face. And it was sort of like a picture of Adolf Hitler. I didn't know what to make of it. I'm Jewish, but I don't have any direct connection to the Holocaust. Obviously, in my heritage, I come from, these line of Ashkenazi Jews from the European line. I don't have any direct family members who were in the Holocaust. I later learned on a podcast a couple of years after, as I didn't really know how to process that, but I later learned a lot of Jewish people, as well as non-Jews who are of German descent, often encounter Hitler in the ayahuasca experience. And that raises a lot of questions in and of itself, because there seems to be an energetic tie, maybe a multi-generational tie to certain things that we're not really even aware of in our current incarnation. And that was really enlightening. Still, to this day, really not sure where it came from or kind of how to process it. But ayahuasca can bring you things that you're not aware of in your typical daily existence, and make clear things and help you along energetically, even though you're not able to process those things on a physical level, the physical plane. But that was something really visceral that I felt, and I feel kind of at that time, as I was saying, it happened in a very difficult part of the journey that I saw this. Not really sure how to process that now more today, other than just to kind of pass on this, and with the understanding, though, that a lot of people encounter the same type of things, and certain groups of people encounter these type of things with the medicine. And again, it doesn't matter what your current physical experience is giving you. These things you can kind of carry from either that are interdimensional or from prior incarnations. And that's something else that I think I'd like to talk about, what time is, and I'll get into that in another video. That was really, something interesting to share. And between all of that, I come back to, the music. As soon as that music starts, sometimes you get a break, because we're talking about hours that can, go on, 5 or 6 hours in the Aya experience. So you have kind of ebbs and flows and lulls of energy. And the music, sort of when you have like a period of peace, when it's been really difficult and you're kind of sitting and you have a momentary peace, then the music and the drumming will start, and then you feel the medicine start to work, and it works directly with the music. And that's something very interesting. The music itself is so physical because you feel the medicine while it's coursing through you. Just have this very powerful physical response, whether it's positive or negative, and you experience both. Sort of how energy works and the duality of nature, where you feel the highs and the lows all within the same experience at different times. And by the end of it, I remember when it was finally over that I'd been through such a trying experience, seeing this visionary Hitler experience, and then all these temperature changes and the back and the forth and the polar nature of it all, where the hot and the cold and the freezing and the sweating. And when it was finally done, I was finally able to rest. There was no more changes, and the music was over, and it was a time of rest. And the time of rest was so welcoming that I finally came through the journey and I can just rest. And that feeling, the ability to just be, was so powerful. The feeling of just existing in the moment, not having to worry about anything, because after that experience, nothing mattered. Just the appreciation of being, one of the most important things. And that's what I'll leave this one with, is the importance of presence. Whatever's going on in the world, detach from it. If you can take a moment out of the day or some time to do a little meditation and just experience being, can be one of the simplest yet most powerful things that we as humans can experience, is the power of presence. That was the second journey. And I hope this resonates with people, to take some time out to just appreciate being.